much awaited Soweto Theatre opened its door to the public on Friday. Structure in Jabulani Township in Soweto seems to be one of a kind. At least that's what architect Lawrence Chibwe thinks.
We wanted them to be very visible. So to be able to achieve that kind of feat, we were going to use colors. The colors are also used to try and differentiate them in terms of venues, because there are three of them. So that sort of orients the people in terms of where they ought to be. We've got the red box, the blue, and the yellow.
My father and his comrades wish to make this statement to you, the people, first. My father says, I cherish my own freedom dearly, but I care even more for your freedom. And that you should hear their views for all those who are banished, for all those who are in exile, for all those who suffer under apartheid, for all those who are opponents of apartheid, and for all those who are oppressed and exploited. Too many have died since I went to prison. Too many have suffered for the love of freedom. I owe it to their widows, to their orphans, to their mothers and to their fathers who have grieved and wept for them. Not only have I suffered during these long, lonely, wasted years, I am not less life-loving than you are, but I cannot sell my birthright, nor am I prepared to sell the birthright of the people seeking freedom. My father says, only free men can negotiate. Prisoners cannot enter into contracts. I am not a violent man, but that was ignored. As a representative of the people, my father says, your freedom and mine cannot be separated. I will return. Amanda!
I joined the Joburg City Theatres because we were a group in June 2013, but I've been fortunate to be part of the first team that opened the Soweto Theatre. I was an independent producer at that time. I worked with James Ngobo, and we did the first production called The Suitcase with a stellar cast. Siyabonga Twala, there was Ubeki Mkwane, Xolile Shabalala, an amazing production to actually open the Soweto Theatre, and that was in May 2012. It's an old story that was revived for the opening of the Soweto Theatre, The Suitcase. A very desperate guy goes on, takes a bus and finds this suitcase. And he thinks, oh, voila, jackpot. Found a suitcase, most probably full of money or clothing or something, only to find that there was a dead body in the suitcase. So that's how the story goes. Yeah, an amazing production. Like I said, full of, yes, drama and a beautiful cast. Siyabonga Twala, all of them are on TV at the moment. So we had to go for high quality. It's a five-hander. So it was part of the celebrations of opening the Soweto Theatre at that time. Then 2013, I joined the Joburg City Theatres, and Soweto Theatre is part of the group. You know, when the City Council upgraded the Jabulani area with a mall and there's a hospital, there's a police station, the idea was, how do you then do social cohesion? How do you then bring the arts into the space? and they decided to build. I was not even part of the team at that time. They decided to build the Soweto Theatre, and it's beautiful, as you have seen. The 3 cubic blocks, the red, the blue and the yellow. And what is coming to stream now is the amphitheatre, which is a 3,000-seater, beautifully upgraded. So it means the Soweto Theatre can take close to 4,000 people at a given time. And at the back of the theatre, there's a school now, a music school that has been built. So you have almost like a cultural precinct in one space. Closer to the mall, closer to garage, so people are able to move between the theatre and the mall and housing. There's a block of flats not far from the theatre, walking distance, so people are able to walk to the theatre, and we're trying to make it as accessible as possible. As you know, Soweto is a city on its own. It's no longer just a township. It has all the amenities.
You don't have to leave there.
No, you don't have. You really don't have. And for us, the exciting thing really is the upgrading of the amphitheatre. It has its own history. The amphitheatre has its own history. It used to be a place for traditional music and dance. It was a place for big music concerts. PJ Powers has performed there. Zinzi Mandela, when she was 17, that's where she did her speech, my father says, from prison. When the dad was still in prison, my father says, so there's enough information around the amphitheatre itself. And the upgrading of it means you could do all of that, plus basketball, you could do fashion, you could do boxing, because it has an inner circle, and then the amphitheatre, plus stage and ablution facilities. So it's a beautiful, beautiful venue. We can't wait to get it operational, and it will be operational before the end of this month. Key for us is really to bring back the bigger events. Because of the limited capacity, we're still sitting at 50%. So the theatres themselves have limited capacity. For instance, the Red Theatre can only take just over 220 people, but we're looking at the outside, because in the outside you can take 2,000 people. So we're looking at those bigger events. We've just had Basadika Diduku, which was a gospel concert. We're looking at other events, including New Year's Eve, which we started moons ago, and after New Year's Eve, because New Year's Eve is more for the youth, people who want to go out and party the whole night. But the following day, on the 1st of January, we're doing a picnic, almost an all-white picnic, so that families and children can come and be part of the celebrations of the New Year. So we're looking at those outdoor events, and like I say, with the amphitheatre coming to stream, there'll be those bigger events. The forecourt, you saw the forecourt. The forecourt, what we do on a monthly basis, there's 7 Color Sunday, where people don't have to cook at home. They know they can come to the Soweto Theatre and get that variety, including beetroot and pumpkin. You know, you end up with a colorful plate full of meat, and there's music as well. Then the Saturday, what we have is arts and craft market. And it's people from Soweto, youngsters from Soweto, creating work that they can sell to Sowetans as well. But we're looking at tourists as well, once the country opens up, for tourists to really come and be part of those celebrations at the Soweto Theatre. And for me, one of the key, really key things is our daytime program. Because without building new audiences, it means there's no future.
Soweto Theatre in particular has a particular charm about it, because it has been there all through the struggle. It is only 10 years old, but it has a rich history in the discourse of Soweto and where Soweto has come from, where it's going. And we believe that it has been a great avenue and an outlet for the creative industries in that area. And we'd love to see it becoming part of the greater creative industry, as more people would go out and showcase their talents and their works and their skills at that space. But it's a brilliant theatre, absolutely brilliant. But I would imagine that we want to see the theatre, Soweto Theatre, in the next 10 years as being a leading light. Would love to see Soweto Theatre being part of the tourism space as well, where people from New York and Copenhagen and Melbourne will be able to come and look at the shows and the productions that will be staged there. So we want to see the Soweto Theatre rising up to be one of the theatres on the international theatre stage and calendar. We look at the reports that are coming through as a political office, and I am so absolutely thrilled when I see the kinds of reports coming through from the theatres in general. And if you look at the works that have been done by the Soweto Theatre itself, the appeal of the theatre is improving, and it can only be because people and their personalities are being brought to the fore in the theatre. So I am so grateful for them. So I'd like to say to the staff, a big up to you. You are doing an excellent job, and I thank you for that.
Hi Carl, how's it?
Hi brother, long time.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long time, and definitely you left big shoes to fill.
Donnie, you hear me? It sounds like you're really at the back of a room somewhere.
Can you hear me now?
Tell
us about your vision for Soweto Theatre.
To expand on what the vision was as well, it was also to start to think about how we could embrace other community activity as well. So by liaising with the city councillors, we were able to bring in a number of projects that were very community focused to demystify the building, because a lot of people looked at it standing there on the top of that hill in Jabalani. I mean, it looked like it came from another planet, to be honest with you. You know, the biggest tool that we used to do that, now the 7th Colour Sunday project as well, because that just gave the theatre an element of cool.
My name is Didi Malangsole.
Hi. Oh, well, my name is Nkululeko Mazibu.
My name is Sibongile Majola. I am the front of house manager.
But I'm known as Mimi. I'm an all-rounder.
I'm Lebogang Enru Mwerani Mnisi, technical manager at Soweto Theatre.
I'm Simpiwe Tato Twala, but more famously known as Trigger. I'm the president of Soweto Art and Craft Development 7 Colour Sundays. Or should I say that? Yo, I'm the minds and brains, yo. You know how I'm like the beginning of everything, man. Like the trigger, you know.
Hi, Uncle.
How are you?
It's Konanjani. Hey, Sizo shoot.
Nice and cold today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my name is Napo Mashiani. I am a theatre maker, creative producer, stage director, performer, translator, so I play a lot with language. I'm an actress, a poet, but not just a poet who writes, a poet who also just breathes life into words.
Yeah. It's always important to stay grounded.
True.
To stay
the roots.
Yes, remember your roots.
Especially in our industry, there's so much. I always say that there's a child somewhere who feels odd because they are probably a nerd or an artist, they're not good in mathematics or in science, and they kind of feel like they don't belong. And yet we come from townships that carry stories. There's like a comedian down the street.
My purpose of being here on earth is to help make my family's life better and also make my people's life better as in people of color, because we have less opportunities, So I'm in a space where I can create more opportunities for our people, That's what I'm doing, using comedy, and Soweto Theatre has created a space for us to be able to achieve that, so I'm quite excited.
I always say, I would one day like to see like a child from Soweto even if they're walking past the theatre, for them to say, "I-theatre yethu," you know, meaning our theatre, not them saying, "Ijabulani Theatre" or "Soweto Theatre," but saying "I-theatre yethu," because once they say that, they own that. And once they say that, meaning that they own that, it means they know what happens within that theatre. They've been inside that space. They've participated, they've taken part, and most of all, they've benefited from that theatre. So that's what it means to me to say Soweto Theatre is plowing back or is rooted in the community.
Just I look at the CEO to you. Sorry. I thought I smell him. He has this smell. I can smell it. Can't you smell it? Maybe it's just me who know his smell well. And let's leave him for a few minutes.
Yeah, we did some extraordinary shows there, and shows that if it hadn't been at Soweto Theatre, they just wouldn't have been the same. The symbolism of the space and its location, I think, really was, very, very significant in terms of the cultural strides that it enabled us to do into a community that had never had a formal theatre complex. I think that was kind of the real vision, was to really make the place open to all and with credibility in terms of what we were creating. I think probably the highlight of the theatre that we actually created there would have been our production of Eclipse, with a stellar all-female cast. First time the production had actually been staged in Africa. That was that was an absolute coup when we were able to stage that. The guys who ran Seven Colours Sunday in particular, I mean, the relationship with them was a really wonderful one. They arrived one day and said to me, "We want you to start a craft fair," and I had no mandate to do that, so I said to them, no, I'm not doing that, but I'll work with you once a week at this time.
First memory is a guy called Carl Johnson. When they were still in the office, it was quite funny. You know how you enter now in the lift, everything is proper. Like you literally used to enter the lift and here we are. Like it was the most funniest thing. Like here we are, the receptionist, the boss, the marketing guy, literally all in one before they fixed it up. So that always brings back good memories. Like you would just run into people. So that's one of my first, entering the building the first time, you know, it was like, this is a beautiful structure. We could do work here. Yeah, you know? So yeah, that's my first memory. Like this, Soweto deserves something like this.
I was born in, like, literally a stone throw from Soweto Theatre, and my grandmother's house is like a few blocks from Soweto Theatre. And the inspiration of my stories, you know, is both a mix of kwakwa, which is the mountain, the landscape, as you can see. I love the view, I love nature, grew up surrounded by nature. And just opposed to that, there's also the Soweto, you know, the matchboxes that look the same when I was growing up, but also the vibrancy of something that I can't explain, you know. And I think for me, that's what made me a storyteller.
In a space like this, I cherish a lot the space as it is. I cherish a lot that it speaks to blackness in a space of blackness. It addresses the need to heal, coming from out of a terrible past, and no better medium to use to heal a people, because then it informs a lot of things socially. It informs what we're about as a people in it, and what we want for the entire populace to see.
So it's up to us as artists, you know, to create an industry for ourselves, you know, music, filmmaking, comedy, just all the disciplines of art, be it painting, you know, let's create that so that we can then say, oh, you know, this is our baby, this we own.
Theatre, then to us, there wasn't any enthusiasm because of we were not open or having access to the real thing. Let him so rest in peace. Pastor Gibson Kenton used to have a group, theater, actors.
That's what Soweto Theatre is for me. When you come here, as you drive into the gates here, from the security, you feel home. Everybody is welcoming. And I think if you were to interview the visiting producers that comes here, I think they would echo my sentiments to say once you get here, the staff takes care of you, from Didi, who takes your booking, to the general manager, to you getting your contracts, to the technical staff. The technical staff is, they are the gems of this theatre. They own everything, and it's home to them.
We are based right in the middle of Soweto, with a beautiful building with more facilities compared to many other local theatres in South Africa. Also really encompassed with young and vibrant staff members that are willing and really hardworking. So we are really working to really joining the old and the new, meaning what I'm trying to say with this is that we know that the traditional theatre, how it operates. However, we actually trying to bring back into the traditional theatre a vibrant feel into the theatre. Also, even the Kasi feel more like accommodating the locals as well, and also to make sure that we speak their language and also serve the community that we are in.
Wow, it means me being, having some sort of a ground. I'm grounded within, the community. I get to see how, we work as a people. I get to see how we develop and evolve as, as creatives, as businesses. And, it's very different from the Santons, and it's like, you come here to Soweto Theatre and Soweto just in general, and it's actually a very big economic hub that we're not tapping into as much as we should. So I think for me personally, it's something that I'm putting in as well, a little bit of effort into kind of growing this this economic hub that we have.
And they make sure that whoever comes here feels at home. And that's what we want for the community. The community needs to know that you can walk through those gates anytime and you would be home, and you will be welcomed by a friendly staff, from your ushers. The ushers here, the security, the cleaners, everybody will make sure that you feel at home. And that's what it is for me. It's coming home.
So there's something that every time when I go to Soweto, it has just that thing. Now we call it that thing, and I think that thing is the soul, it's the heartbeat. It's the pace of it, it's the culture of it, it's the fashion. Oh my God, fashion! The fashion. The fashion of it. Music.
Hello, I'm Sipho Mabuse, but otherwise I'm known as Hot Sticks, but I prefer to call myself Hot Sax as a saxophonist, sorry, before the mind gets elsewhere.
Give me a story from your lens. What did it feel like, those moments leading to the stage? And when you got on stage, what was that feeling you felt when you realized, I am the one that's performing in front of my community? I'm the one that's bringing it back.
Well, first of all, my have to go back many years because the Soweto Theatre was not there yet when I performed here. The amphitheatre is basically the space that I performed with my band called the Beaters. We had just come out of high school, and of course this was a historic venue where everybody who wanted to perform would perform there. And I remember the last concert that was here was between some of the major artists like PJ Powers, Juluka, Ladysmith, Black Mambazo, Harari, the Soul Brothers, Papa and Blondie. So I think that was one of the last concerts we did here. But having that space at that time, then of course subsequently the theatre was built.
You kind of feel like, oh, it's going to be like any other theatre. And for most of us who grew up gravitating towards or inspired by the culture at the Market Theatre, we didn't think there was going to be an alternative.
My first performance here was amazing. I think the Soweto Theatre is one of the most, if I may call, excellent spaces. Every musician would probably want to come and perform here. So I did a show here called The Journey, which was almost like a reminder of how far I've been with this entire area, which is Jabulani. Yeah.
So one day I'm sitting and I get a phone call, you know, like it's Easter holiday. Hey, Nabs, do you want to put up a show? We see you all over the world. We see you all over the country performing. Do you want to come through? And do you want to come up with a concept? And I was like, oh wow. I was like, oh, okay. What an honor at first. Like, oh my God, finally I'm going to perform for people who speak my language, but also who understand, you know, the dynamics of what it feels to be a black woman who was born in the township, but also made the world, you know, her own stage. And then I was like, okay, who am I going to collaborate with? I was like, yeah, Ladies in Jazz.
So over 7 years ago, I had the privilege to actually put up a production under my company, Soweto Productions, of something that we called the Gospel Meets Jazz then. So it's a concept where I decided that I'm more comfortable actually bringing both genres together and not limiting myself or stereotyping or boxing myself to just jazz or just gospel. The Soweto Theatre was fairly new at the time, and there was a whole buzz around it. We had a beautiful show, well attended. What I particularly liked is the fact that under the same roof, you literally had everything that you need. You didn't even bring in so much except maybe for backline. The lighting was exceptional. The seating, I love actually having beautiful aesthetics to everything that I do, and this venue presented that exact opportunity. And it being a historic or a memorial venue as well just brought that much more, what word can I say, pizzazz, to say that I also had a show at Soweto Theatre, and also the community around the place. It being here makes sure that the community gets to experience various productions, various things that they would need to ordinarily just drive out to probably Johannesburg or Pretoria to see. But this is now things or productions that are brought right into the community. For me, that's very important because the culture is in the community, and the people that make the culture in the community, and the young people that need to aspire to be something and to grow up and want to be someone, they are in the communities. So when you bring the life and you bring the theater and you bring the arts and the crafts to where the people are, you make you know, arts and culture accessible.
It's like Napo Mashan, because I can't sing to save my life. I'm vocally wounded. I think my vocal cords are on load shedding. So I got Ladies in Jazz, you know, 5 piece. It's coming. I'm very hopeful. I'm so hopeful. I'm so hopeful. And so the way I'm so loud, everybody thinks I can sing. But I did music. But also, I wanted my audience, my people, to sing along. And I was like, beyond vocal, you know, this amazing group of 5 brothers who sing a cappella. And I was just like, it's one thing for me to do my poems in Sesotho and English, or mix a bit of Zulu there, Xhosa there, Kiswahili there, but for me it's very important that the audience also sing along and connects. But also that's the premise of African performance. You don't perform in isolation, right? It's a call and respond, right? And I've achieved that through poetry or through some of my performances. But I think music is something that also allows the audience to feel welcome. Again, the connection with my aunts who are amazing vocalists. We got there and then I was given a main stage. My grandmother and my aunts and my mom sang, at home, in their former box house. I was on an international stage, the biggest stage in Soweto, first of its kind, top class. Didn't have to worry about lighting or a microphone or anything, and I was on that stage. But on that stage, I carried their spirit, I carried their history, I carried their DNA, and I carried a sense of my calling and the fact that I honored it in that way. And really, the poems that I did, just Napo and Friends, for me, just emulate and really reflects the spirit of Soweto, that you are never an island in that community. And the fact that now Soweto Theatre became that for us as creatives, I think that's amazing.
A big highlight for me as well was working with all the people that I worked with. At Soweto Theatre, I really do feel that I grew as a leader, and I grew in terms of understanding what it really takes to create the change we want to see in South Africa. We're young people, all of us young black people, we had studied and we'd done what we had to do in terms of being able to run such a facility, but really doing the work is quite different to what you learn in the classroom. And for me, that experience of being able to take professionals and work together in building something that is meaningful, and we made such a huge impact. Everybody is still talking about the Soweto Theatre who give a direction. My name is Nomsa Mazwai. I'm here with you every Wednesday from 10 until 12. Now, the Soweto Theatre is celebrating 10 years. I can't believe it, 10 years of Soweto Theatre. I had the honor of being the general manager at the Soweto Theatre for 5 years. And so I'm going to be joined by a crew that's shooting an incredible documentary. So more on that after this break. Remember, you are listening to Women Radio, well-organized man, for we are.
Who owns your time, my time, my time? But time, my time, my time.
And the most beautiful moment that I remember about Soweto Theatre is having the team that we had. It was only the 7 of us. It was trainers, it was hectic. We had to come in the morning and knock off late. But because we became a team and we worked together.
It's one of the icons in Soweto. It's a state of the art in Soweto. When it was given to us by Amos Masondo, he wanted to make sure that this is a legacy that stays for years.
Well, I would love to see Soweto Theatre go globally. So can you imagine having like a global stamp where the people just look at Soweto Theatre and think, wow, this is where we need to be. So, in my tenure here at Soweto Theatre, I'm hoping that, we can, grow this place where people want to constantly be here, where the vibe is always here, where you come and hang out with your friends and chill and have like a good time, even if you're not coming to watch a theatre production per se, but, it's somewhere where you can hang out and enjoy and just be within the environment of like this creative and beautiful space that we have. So I think if I can tap into that, where people can come here and hang out all the time, come watch shows, really take this as their home, that would be something that I would want to put a stamp on.
So for me, what stands out in this theatre is the humility of the staff, the the way that they're just ready to serve and to cooperate and to collaborate with you. You know, when I walked in today for this interview, one of the technical guys said, Mam Swazi, you know, so they will never forget a face, and they have that respect, and they're always ready to help, and they're already ready to serve. The professionalism, the, you know, emails were being answered. I pray that it's still that way. Emails were being answered. The staff was readily available. It was not a stress. It was not a you don't belong here, but it was a part of a family. You know, people were just available, whether you were running over a little bit or whether you were a bit pushy like I sometimes am, but they were ready to make sure that all my needs were met. And, you know, we had a beautiful experience, and we had a beautiful experience. It's one of my most memorable shows.
What do artists mean to the community?
It's a very difficult question, you know. I guess people relate to us differently. And there are those that we feel we encourage them, and there are people who may probably feel our presence within our community is creating what you consider a role model lifestyle. And certainly, you know, and I would love to believe that by being present in the community, I can impart some of the achievements, how things happen, and it will probably inspire or motivate some of the young people who are coming up and aspiring to be the same as who we are. The artist in a community should be considered a voice, should be considered a model of advancing aspirations of others. That's basically what I think. The voice of the community. Absolutely. Yes.
Identity and your spirituality and your craft and your art has to reflect your people, right? The world doesn't want to see itself the way it sees itself, but I think it's a responsibility for every artist to take things from the street.
Actors portray via acting, they use the visual element to tell that story. My visual element is being behind the scenes and actually giving mood, giving time, giving look, giving life to just the story. So time and place are informed by what I control. And if I miss it, then the show loses essence and significance at that time. So it is quite important. It is quite important what I do, and that's how I look at my life. I look at my life. It's just if you were to put it, I'm a preacher to a nation. That's how I look at the lighting thing. Is telling that story is not just telling for someone to hear. Someone has to see this.
It's the how that's gonna distinguish you from me, from anybody else. But don't be apologetic about it. Step into the world. If you have to beat the drum, beat that drum until you connect with another person from the diaspora, from the continent. If you have to say words, if you have to use your voice to talk about gender-based violence or femicide within your community, let that be your contribution in making and provoking your community to talk about issues that affect us. If it's about talking about crime, talk about it in the most bold way and become that mirror to your people. But don't apologize for it.
But one of the things that I've always maintained, I don't believe the hype. And I tell young people, the hype is just a hype. It's what you give off yourself, you know, that matters. How much you how much one dedicates time and effort to ensure sustainability. And I think in a way I have lived up to what I've set out to be. It's a very difficult industry. It can only sustain if one is focused. You work hard at ensuring that you're inventive. You always try and do new things. You always try and engage even with new ideas from others. And you learn from other artists, and I think that way, and interacting with many musicians, especially in my space. I'm always curious to learn from others. I think that's one of the things that probably I attribute my being in the industry for this long. And it's a privilege as well, when you have people always loving to see what you do and appreciating it. It's the only way that one can say, don't falter. Carry on doing the right things all the time. And try to learn at all given times to ensure that you do things that people will be expecting of one. I think I was privileged in a way to be allowed to present a concert in this space unlike any other. I did my journey concert at the Soweto Theatre, where I introduced a new element of surprise, something that a lot of people would never have imagined me to do. And for me to actually perform here with eclectic musicians, like using a sitar, tabla, and so in the heart of Soweto, these are like foreign instruments. And for me to be able to come to Soweto and perform that kind of music in this beautiful space was indeed a privilege, in which I pride myself for having been a Sowetan in the first place and being able to perform here at home.
The gentle giant of South African music, Sipho Hot Sticks Mabuse!
My grandmother didn't spell a word of being an activist or cultural activist or of being a feminist, but my grandmother was a pure, dope-ass, amazing Zulu woman who got married to a tall, dark, handsome, black Mosotho man from Lesotho, Musia, right? I never got a chance to honor her, and there's just something about her story that inspires me. So one day, 3 a.m., they came to raid my grandmother's house in Soweto. And my grandmother, being a domestic worker, and seeing how they were terrorizing her own kids, made fire and took a huge pot. There was no electricity then. Took a huge pot, put water inside, and placed the pot on top of the stove, and looked at these white, soldiers and police officers and said, "It's okay that you're here to violate our peace and to really violate our sense of home. And you can ransack my home. You can turn it upside down, look for papers or anything suspicious. But make sure that you are not here when that water boils. Because if it boils and you're still here, it's going to land on you." And they immediately stopped and left the house. And they've never been back. As long as I have fire and I can make fire on stage and put that pot and pour water and allow it to boil, that water can either clean the house or clean my kids, or it can really be a weapon to make sure that the peace remains in my home. That for me is her story. So it's happening in August. It's going to be an annual festival, and I'm so grateful that the Soweto Theatre, really, when I came and I shared these stories with them, and I said, listen, this can go to any theatre, but there's just something that's calling me back, and I think it's my grandmother calling me home to finally finally embrace the sense of who I am as a black woman who's a storyteller, and to stand in my light against all odds, just to say, we did it. We did it. And I suppose for me is, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, telling black women stories, making sure that their narrative is controlled and owned by them. And being able to share that with other sister friends, priceless.
My people call it home. I mean, the people who come to our show or our event, because we are an every month market, we have 2. So there's people always, coming to the show and coming, So they call it family, home. People who've been here 10 years like us, who've been coming every Sunday or every first Saturday, things like that, Yo, man, you late, man. 10-year anniversary, you do 10-year Zoom meetings. No. Hey, cut. This man just ruined my shot. Cut, man. Let's go. It's done. Cut. Love the camera, though. My man, this is Legas.
So what did they ask you, man?
What did that guy? I went on some people's other jobs now, and I forgot. Oh yeah, okay. What does Soweto Theatre mean to aspiring artists?
Oh man, it means this is an opportunity, this is a platform, this is a space for you to come and grow yourself as an artist. Yeah, become,
Become the artist.
Yeah.
Right, as if you say so. And then apparently Soweto Theatre has been dubbed the evolution of performing arts. What's your take on that?
It is the evolution of performing arts. It is the space where people come with their ideas and do what they need to do.
Yeah, why don't you say it's triggers, brains, and
trigger trauma,
makes it pop. Yeah, you late, you must give me props, man. But yo, I got a bounce. All love, one love. See you, shoot, man. Yeah. Next 10 years we get into the top.